I'm Sunday, 31, and last night at dinner, my husband handed me a pill with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He told me it would help me sleep, but 30 minutes later, I heard him on the phone planning my disappearance and laughing about how everything I owned would be his by morning. What he didn't know was that I had been watching for months. The secret calls, the forged papers, the pressure to sign away what was mine. I saw it all, and I made sure every asset was locked down before he ever made his move. By sunrise, he expected to find me gone. Instead, he found me alive, perfectly fine, waiting with the evidence of his betrayal in my hands. What followed was not the story of a husband outsmarting his wife. It was the story of how his plan collapsed the moment he underestimated me. And once it began, there was no way back for him. The evening began like any other, though beneath its polished surface, there was a current I could no longer ignore. The dining room glowed with the dim light of the chandelier, its golden hue casting shadows across the polished table my husband insisted on keeping immaculate. He spoke with that practiced charm of his, a tone that once seemed soothing but had long since sharpened into something rehearsed, something hollow. His words came smooth, casual remarks about work and weather, yet his eyes darted too often toward me, measuring, calculating. I had been watching him for months, his behavior unraveling thread by thread. The subtle grin that lingered too long when I asked about his late nights. The way his hand trembled slightly when I refused to sign the contracts he slid across the counter with the promise, "It's just paperwork, nothing you need to worry about." He thought I wasn't paying attention, but I had already seen the truth nestled in the fine print, clauses that would leave me stripped of everything I had built. That night, he made his move. He placed a small white pill by my plate, claiming it was a vitamin. His tone carried false concern, soft but insistent. "It'll help you sleep better," he said, sliding the tablet toward me with a smile that stretched too far, showing too much. His hand lingered on the glass of water, almost as though he needed to see the pill vanish into my throat to believe his scheme was working. I lifted it to my lips, met his stare, and let the illusion play out. I pressed the pill to my tongue, swallowed with deliberate slowness, and drank the water in one clean motion. He nodded, satisfied, turning his attention back to his plate. What he didn't see was the slight curl of my fingers, the way I held the pill behind my teeth until I excused myself to the bathroom. The porcelain sink swallowed it whole with a faint clink, leaving me untouched. When I returned, his demeanor had shifted. He leaned back in his chair, almost triumphant, his movements looser, more careless. He poured another glass of water, humming faintly, as though the game had already ended in his favor. I played my part well, yawning, stretching, letting my eyelids droop just enough. I whispered that I was tired and kissed his cheek lightly before slipping upstairs to bed. Once the house settled into silence, I left the bedroom door cracked just wide enough. The floorboards creaked under his steps as he moved to his office. The click of his phone lit up the hallway faintly, and then his voice carried through the air, low, sharp, and stripped of every mask he wore in daylight. "By morning," he said, his tone steady, stripped of warmth, "everything she owns will be mine. The accounts, the house, all of it. She won't be around to stop me." A pause, then the sound of laughter, chilling in its ease. "Yes, it's handled. By sunrise, I'll have control of it all." I stood frozen in the shadows, my hand gripping the stair rail. His voice, so confident, so assured, might have broken me months ago. But not now. Not after the meetings with my lawyer, not after the hours of preparation I had carefully concealed. He believed himself clever, but every asset had already been pulled into my sole control. The empire he thought he was about to seize had been locked away behind barriers even he couldn't touch. I slipped back into bed, lying still as though under the pill's spell. My heartbeat slowed with practiced calm, though inside me, a storm brewed. His betrayal was no longer suspicion, it was certainty, confessed aloud without hesitation. And yet I felt no panic, only the cold satisfaction of knowing I was steps ahead of him. When the morning came, he moved with purpose, checking, waiting, expecting silence, expecting absence. His footsteps hurried up the stairs, and I listened as he flung the bedroom door open. He stopped, breath caught, as he saw me upright, alive, coffee cup in hand. I turned slowly, letting the steam curl between us like smoke rising from the aftermath of a fire. "Good morning," I said, my voice calm measured. His face drained of color. I reached for the folder resting on the dresser, thick with documents, transcripts, and evidence of his late-night whispers. I slid it across the table, my eyes never leaving his. His trembling hands reached for it, but I leaned forward, stopping him. "You thought you were playing a game," I whispered, each word cutting through the quiet. "But you forgot who built all of this in the first place." The silence stretched across the room like a blade pressed against skin. He stood frozen at the doorway, the morning light framing him, his face drained of all color. I kept my eyes steady on him, fingers resting against the folder I had slid across the table. His breath caught, shallow, uneven, as though the reality before him had stripped the air from his lungs. "Sit," I said evenly, gesturing to the chair opposite me. My tone carried no anger, no trembling edge, only control. He hesitated, his gaze shifting from the folder to my face, then back again. He lowered himself into the chair, movement stiff, like a man approaching the gallows. I opened the folder with deliberate precision, revealing documents that spelled out his deceit. Bank transfers, attempted authorization requests, drafts of property agreements with his name poised to replace mine. He swallowed hard, his jaw clenching. I flipped each page slowly, ensuring he absorbed every detail. "You thought I wouldn't notice the calls," I said, my voice firm. "You thought I wouldn't read the contracts. You've been careless." He shifted in his chair, his fingers twitching against the edge of the table. This isn't what it looks like." His voice cracked under the weight of his own lie. I leaned forward, pinning him with my stare. "I heard you last night. Every word. You promised someone that by morning, everything I own would be yours. Explain that." His lips parted, but nothing came. The words he was so used to twisting into charm deserted him. He sat back, eyes darting, calculating, searching for an escape. I didn't give him one. While you were busy plotting, I made sure every asset was sealed away. Every account, every property, untouchable. You thought you were 2 steps ahead, but you were years behind. The folder snapped shut under my palm. The sound jolted him, his shoulders tightening. He leaned forward now, desperation cracking through his mask. "You're overreacting," he insisted. "I was just planning. For us. For the future." I let the lie hang in the air, heavy and pathetic. "The future you saw didn't include me." His jaw locked, his eyes hardening, the charm stripped away. For the first time, his true face surfaced, cold, resentful, exposed. He stared at me not as a husband, but as a rival who had just outmaneuvered him. I rose from my chair, leaving him seated at the table with the folder like evidence at a trial. "You have one choice left," I said. "Do nothing. Walk away. Or the police get everything." His expression darkened, but he stayed silent. I walked past him, refusing to look back. I needed him to sit with the weight of his failure, to feel the walls closing in. Upstairs, I closed the bedroom door and leaned against it, my heart steady, my mind sharper than ever. The game wasn't over, not by any stretch. Men like him didn't surrender. They schemed until the last moment, clawing for control even as the ground vanished beneath their feet. By afternoon, he tried again. He entered the kitchen where I sat, my laptop open, my lawyer's number glowing on the screen. His smile returned, weak but practiced, a flimsy mask stretched across his face. "Look," he began, lowering his voice, "I lost my way. I let greed cloud my judgment. I'm sorry. Let's not throw everything away over one mistake." I kept typing, ignoring his attempt to soften the edges. He continued, his tone sliding between apology and persuasion. "We can fix this. We've built too much together. Don't ruin it with threats." At last, I lifted my eyes. "You already ruined it. And I don't threaten, I act." His mouth opened, but no words came. The silence between us grew heavier. He lingered a moment longer, then turned sharply, leaving the room. His footsteps thundered down the hall, the slam of his office door rattling the glass. That night, the house held an unfamiliar stillness. I lay awake, listening, waiting for the creak of floorboards, the sound of another whispered call. Hours passed and finally, faint murmurs carried from his office. I rose silently, moving down the stairs, each step careful. Through the thin crack of the door, his voice reached me, low and strained. She knows. She has everything. But I can fix this. I just need time. Trust me, she won't win. He ended the call abruptly, pacing the room with restless energy. Papers littered his desk, scribbled notes scattered like fragments of a desperate mind. His hands shook as he pressed them to his face. I stepped back before he could sense me, retreating to the shadows of the hallway. My suspicions were confirmed. He wasn't finished. He was regrouping, recalculating, preparing another move. When dawn arrived, I was ready. I placed a second folder on the kitchen counter, this one containing copies of his latest attempts, new bank inquiries, fresh signatures drafted in my name, recorded late-night calls with unknown contacts. The evidence stacked higher, undeniable. He walked in, bleary-eyed but tense, and stopped cold when he saw the folder waiting. His lips pressed into a thin line as he opened it, his face hardening with each page. "You're trapping me," he muttered, his voice sharp with resentment. "No," I replied calmly. "You trapped yourself. I'm only holding up the mirror." His eyes lifted to mine, filled with fury, yet beneath it, a flicker of fear. He realized then that no matter how far he reached, I was already standing at the finish line. I poured myself another coffee, steady, unshaken, as he stood there caught in his own downfall. The game wasn't over, but the balance had shifted. He had planned to erase me. Instead, he was the one disappearing, piece by piece, under the weight of his own schemes. The morning after his second attempt, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. The mask he wore was gone. There was no charm left, no sweet words to hide behind. What stood before me now was a man stripped of pretense, cornered and exposed. And I knew this would be his final act. He came into the kitchen with a forced calm, his shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. He tried to steady himself, but his hands betrayed him, twitching as he reached for a chair. He sat across from me again, the silence heavy, and then finally spoke. "We don't have to destroy each other," he said, voice low, almost pleading. "You want your empire? Keep it. I'll step aside." I sipped my coffee, unshaken. "You'll never step aside. You'll wait, watch, and strike again. That's who you are." He pressed his palms against the table, leaning forward. "You've made your point. You're smarter. Fine. But if you hand those files over to the police, you're not just ending me. You're ending us, everything we built. Do you really want it all gone?" I studied him. Even now, his words twisted toward manipulation, tugging at the memory of a partnership that no longer existed. But the choice had already been made. "Everything we built," I said quietly, "was mine long before you ever arrived. You just tried to take it." His face darkened. The last mask slipped, revealing raw bitterness. He stood abruptly, pacing like a caged animal. His voice grew sharper with every word. "You think you've won? You think this is over? You're not untouchable. You can't control everything." I rose from my seat, calm as steel. "No, but I can control this." From the drawer by the counter, I pulled out the final folder, thicker than the rest, containing every piece of evidence neatly compiled and notarized. His phone calls, bank records, signed drafts, even video footage from hidden cameras I had installed weeks earlier. Proof that his intent wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. His eyes widened as he recognized the depth of what I held. He lunged forward, snatching at the folder, but I stepped back. His fingertips brushed empty air. "You think I'll let you destroy me with that?" His voice cracked with desperation. "You already destroyed yourself," I answered. The front door opened. He froze as two men in suits stepped inside, Detectives I had been working with since the first contract he tried to push under my nose. My lawyer followed them in, carrying his own copy of the evidence. "This is harassment," my husband barked, spinning toward me. "She set me up. You can't believe her." The detectives remained unmoved. "We've heard enough," one of them said, taking the folder from my hand. "We have the calls, the signatures, the financial records. You've left a trail a mile wide." He tried again, turning to me with a hollow laugh. You wouldn't throw me to them." But I did not flinch. "You tried to erase me. You planned my disappearance. Did you think I'd protect you?" His mouth opened, but the words never formed. The detectives closed in, reading him his rights as his wrists were bound. His face twisted between rage and disbelief, but he offered no resistance. The fight had drained from him, replaced by the weight of inevitability. As they let him out, he turned once, his eyes burning with a promise he could never fulfill. I met his gaze without fear, and for the first time, he understood he had lost completely. The house fell silent again once the door shut. My lawyer placed the remaining documents on the counter, his tone steady. "It's done. He won't touch your assets again. The case against him is airtight." I nodded, my breath steady, my hands firm. There was no tremor, no hesitation. Just relief. The empire remained intact, shielded from every scheme he had devised. The company, the properties, the accounts, all secure. I had built it, and I would keep building it, but this time without the shadow of betrayal trailing behind me. In the days that followed, headlines carried his downfall. Businessman arrested for fraud and conspiracy. His name, once polished and admired, became synonymous with greed and failure. Calls poured in, partners distancing themselves, allies disappearing. He had nothing left. I stood at the balcony of my office, the city stretching before me, its skyline bathed in evening light. The empire was mine again, cleansed of his grasp. He had tried to erase me, but instead, he had erased himself.